This is the Entrepreneur's Seat with your host, Randy Goldbaum, where entrepreneurs share their stories behind their success, struggles, and most importantly, their why.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Seat, where entrepreneurs share the stories behind their success, the struggles, the wins, and most importantly, the why. Welcome to the show. Tell us who you are and your story.
Thanks for having me. My name is Michael Patti. I'm an owner of a general contracting company called Selective Remodeling. Along with that, I've also developed some software to help remove the chaos out of the trade.
So you're just a little busy, it sounds like.
Slightly.
So what was the inspiration for you to get behind Selective first? And I'm assuming Selective led to the next business.
Yeah. So there's a case study almost. So like Selective is the living, proving source of all the things that I've gone through to basically get me to the point where I can solve problems for the entire trades.
On the Selective side.
Correct.
And that led you into the journey, the ladder journey.
Exactly.
Working in it every day as an entrepreneur, realizing that there's a better way to do it.
Yeah, you get all these case studies. I like every client to me is a case study. So as you're solving problems, these problems can be solved for bigger purposes, right? So if you look at a problem and you say you're only solving this small little thing, then that's what you're going to do. But if you think of it as, how do I solve this forever? Then you actually create real processes and real operation behind solving those problems for not just that one client, but the next set of clients.
So give us an example of what a problem would be and how you would come up with a solution for that problem.
Yeah, actually, really good question. So the first thing that comes to mind is we had a client who wanted a steam shower in their bathroom.
Okay.
Now, when we install hi-hats, we typically leave the coil inside of the drywall. So the electrician comes in and he puts his laser and he says, all right, this is exactly where this hi-hat's going to be located.
Right.
And he drills a hole and great. But in a steam shower, you put tile there. Right, so in the steam shower, your tile gets on all three surround walls, including the ceiling.
And that's because the steam will disrupt the sheetrock and so forth. Got it. Okay.
Exactly. So now, when that happened, the electrician comes in and he's like, "Oh, I can't do this because this tile
up there."
All right. So now, inside of our system, we ensure that anytime that there's a steam shower, we actually get a electrical hi-hat ring that gets installed. So now the tile guy will install around that ring. So we won't ever have that problem ever again.
So, and that praxis has been repeated through every job when somebody is installing a steam shower.
Exactly.
So that's now, so how is that translated to the job site?
Yeah, so because those products get delivered on site, the installers have all the products that they need. The documentation, the planning process.
I'm going to back you up for a second.
Yeah.
You just said something very key there. So you're saying if you're doing a kitchen renovation, a bathroom renovation, it's irrelevant. When your team shows up to begin the project, everything they need for that project's on site. Because my experience has been the contractor comes to my house and they're leaving. And they're picking up corking. I don't know what they're getting, but they leave the site and come back. That's not the case here?
Yeah, no, the system actually has entire logic base process.
What's the system called?
It's called CE Pro.
CE Pro, and you've developed CE Pro based upon issues that you realized in the field that was slowing down the progress of a job, interrupting the customer's experience, and costing you money.
Yeah, time, money.
It's all the same.
Aggravation, the entire thing.
All the same.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, you looked at this situation and said, there's got to be a better way.
Exactly.
So CE Pro is born.
Yep.
And CE Pro is right now affiliated with Selective Remodeling, but two different companies.
Two different companies, yep.
Okay. So this is interesting. So what is the goal, long-term goal with CE Pro?
Yeah, so the goal is to actually get this into the trades' hands. So
all trades.
All trades. So if you're a plumber, you're a drywall guy, you're a tile guy, installer. The idea behind this is that as you're inputting the scope, it will actually give you all the cost codes associated to that scope. And when I say cost codes, I'm talking about, like you just said, the caulking, the grouts, the thin sets, the mud, the wire lath, all the things that you need, the 2x4s,
Everything's there.
As you're generating the scope and you say, I'm building this room, and yes, we're doing drywall in this room, it tells you how much tape, how much spackle, how many boards, and the labor to do the entire project.
So as a true entrepreneur, you're collaborating as well. So you're seeing a hole in your industry. You recognize that. I'm sure this was not invented overnight.
No,
I'm sure
for
this was many sleepless nights, which I want to hear about, to get to where you are today. So today, are you utilizing this in the job sites that you're presently working?
Yeah, every single job for the last 4 years has gone through this process. So as we continue to develop and see issues, maybe that ring that I just described before for that hi-hat wasn't part of the system before, but when we get that feedback from the trades, from the people on site, we look at it and say, hey, was this a one-time problem that we can't solve because of a one-off? Or is this part of a system that we could actually integrate and have the logic based upon those things?
Got it. I'm a big believer if there's smoke, there's fire.
Exactly.
So that's what you're saying. You're realizing you smell the smoke before it turns into a fire. Let's give you a solution. So when you show up on job site as a contractor or tradesman, you have a solution.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that the win is for the consumer also. They have confidence that the price, the service level, and the timing is going to be right on point with CE Pro.
Yeah, to me, the end user, the customer who's going through that renovation gets the best out of all of this, right? The tradesmen, obviously, they create efficiencies. They do certain things that make sure that they have the exact costs and the exact price, and they're not running around. But ultimately, the person who gets the best of this is the end user, because now when you show up to a job site, I can tell you from 20 years of being in construction, the guys on the field, when they don't have what they need, they get frustrated.
Of course.
Right? They got to stop and go and stop and go. And
I think it's like being an artist. You're in the mode, right?
Exactly. So when you have that going on, you get frustrated.
All right.
Who else gets frustrated? The homeowner's going to get frustrated.
Well, the homeowner senses the frustration.
Exactly.
I mean, let's face it.
Exactly.
It's funny. I was going to ask you, what was the moment that you realized you couldn't work for someone else as an entrepreneur? Because I think that's really important. I have a feeling I know the answer, but I'd love to hear that through this journey.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that I couldn't work for somebody. I think I would be able to partner strategically with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you already are.
Yeah, and that's what the real pathway is creating collaboration. Brendan Dawson teaches all the time.
For those people who don't know, Brandon Dawson.
Yeah, so Brendan Dawson runs TradeScale Ventures. He basically helps small to medium business owners really get into the science of business. And one of the things he always promotes is collaboration is the new currency. And that's been in my head for some time now, and it was always something that was internalized.
Is he a mentor of yours? Just so I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So they consult us as a company.
Selective and CE Pro? Or?
Just Selective right
Okay.
now. CE Pro is actually running a beta test of a strategic partnership with TradeScale Ventures.
That sounds terrific.
Yeah, it's something that I worked really hard to earn, but ultimately he is a mentor of pretty much. He's a coach, he's a mentor, and he's a consultant all in one.
He's all wrapped up in one. So it's a one-stop shop.
Exactly.
One-stop shop. So, and we're going to jump around a little bit because it's an interesting situation. The whole story behind the entrepreneur seat is to motivate other entrepreneurs. Maybe they're stuck in the mud, maybe they don't believe in themselves, and you've obviously do believe in yourself, and you've obviously bridged that gap. You got a long way to go, as all entrepreneurs do, right? The world is your oyster, and you're going to keep pounding away. But I guess the number one question I really am curious to understand is, what is your why?
I do want to see trades be efficient, because I know that the trades actually run this world. We do so much heavy lifting, and we don't get the credit for the things that we do.
On the trade side.
On the trade side of things. And most tradesmen, myself included, for 18 years of my career, was good at the thing that I was good at, right? But if you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you're a framer, you're really good at those things, typically.
Yeah.
Right? And then when there's business, you have to be good at business too. It's much more than just soldering a pipe or hammering a nail. You have to think about client experience. You got to think about who your avatar is. there's so many different nuances that
Sounds like you're wise to help people reduce stress and create harmony in the trade.
create efficiency, because nobody wants to go to work when they're frustrated. And when I sense and I know that the trades are actually moving the needle, but they are stressed the hell out.
Right.
I want to remove that stress, remove that chaos, because that's when things will actually start to be really, really efficient and exciting for me.
And really put them in a position where they can grow.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, they're not necessarily the ones that have to worry about a lot of these things that we're discussing. What's going to be on site? Is it going to arrive there? Because you've built the infrastructure for
Exactly.
that. to help
And it's
them get
exciting
there.
to see somebody going through that journey and being able to help that person go through that mindset.
Which I absolutely love. And not one time when I asked the why did you say it's about making money. And I know we all need money to live, but that's not what you're talking about. So I was going to ask you what your biggest challenge was in the early days, but I have a feeling this is going to bring us right back to the reason CE Pro exists.
Yeah, so I was sitting at my desk, and I got the day's report. I saw my project manager, he went to Home Depot 14 times in that single day.
One job?
One job.
One job 14 times.
It was eye-opening to me, and I said to myself, either I've got to get out of this thing and change my whole path, or I'm going to try and fix it.
So if you could not improve the process, you were ready to walk away.
I was ready to walk away.
And that's how frustrating it was.
Yeah.
But in true entrepreneurial spirit and in true collaboration spirit, you went out and you said, I'm going to fix this problem. I'm not going to walk away from this. I am going to fix the problem.
That was my goal, and I was the goal was to fix it for me, right, and fix it for the Selective Remodeling company.
So you did it isolated. That was
Yes.
your thought process.
Yep.
And as you were developing
It was 2 weeks into developing it, and I told my cousin who helped me develop it, because I'm not a developer. He happens to be.
you're a builder.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, Ben, this whatever we're building right now, I know it's still early, but this thing is way bigger than just this one company.
But I get it. You were down in the dungeon,
Yeah.
working your butt off to create the software, to improve the experience, to improve your margins, to get
know my margins.
everywhere.
Right? Because at one point my margins were going from like this to this to this. It was like all over the place.
Right,
And
right.
now I'm 1 point higher technically on all my margins.
Really.
Yeah, that's how efficient we've become.
And customer experience.
Through the roof. You know, when you have money in a job, and it's not like you're being piggish, but ultimately when there's enough money in there, you can do special things for that customer.
You know what I really enjoy about the conversation we're having is the collaboration. Is that you're not working in a bubble.
Yeah.
That you're out in the industry, you're recognizing issues, and you want to help the industry, not just help yourself.
Yeah.
And that's tremendous. And I think my experience as being an entrepreneur is that when you're in a room with entrepreneurs, they're all collaborating. They're not competing. They're all working together to help you solve a problem. And I belong to many groups, not networking groups, just like I think you mentioned Brandon Dawson. I feel that's like a mastermind group where you're sitting around with like-minded people and you're brainstorming how to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
And you're learning from people who've
done it before.
Who've done it before.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So
Or
let me,
even better yet, you can actually teach somebody else who hasn't done
Which
it.
is the
Right?
best, right?
And that's the coolest part. Obviously, learning from people who've been there is I can't even put words to it. It's a privilege. But then when you get to do it for somebody else, and you can see that pay it forward thing happen, it's what drives me.
yeah, I love it. I love that. So let me ask you, going back to being the entrepreneurial journey, because there's highs and there's lows, just like margins. There's highs and there's lows. What do you think the biggest mistake you made, and what did it teach you?
So my biggest mistake was actually my biggest lesson, and that lesson has definitely brought me to a point of crossing my T's, dotting my I's, and truly going with not just the data but also my gut instincts. So we purchased a building. I'm not going to name names, but we purchased a building, and that building came with a promissory note of buying product.
So you bought a building from what doesn't matter,
Yeah.
and in return they were going to pull product from you.
I was going to buy product from
You were
them.
buying product from
So I
them.
would buy the the building for less money
to be a customer.
To be a customer
Sorry,
and buy
thank you.
product, right?
Okay.
And the truth is I was in a sea of sharks, and I was
you were a
still,
guppy.
and I was young. This is now coming on 17 years. So I was new to being an entrepreneur. I thought I knew it all, which at this point I know.
You know enough to know you don't know it all.
Yeah, even now to this day, 20 years in, there's still so much more that I have to learn, and I know that now. Back then, I thought I knew it all. Right. And sometimes you got to take those beatings, and when you take those beatings, you got to learn from it. And if you don't, then ultimately you're going to stay stuck.
Look, we're all going to make mistakes. If you don't learn from the mistake, you're just going to happen again.
Yeah.
Right? That's the biggest value. So you're in this building.
And the cool part of having a mentor is that you don't have to actually get hurt during these processes. You could actually talk to somebody who's been there, done that, give you advice, so you don't get into those.
You almost come off sound like a mentor. Like I could see a mid-size, large-size contracting company that's listening to us now understands that you have this solution that may save them. They're listening. It sounds like they could reach out to you and you would get on the phone with them and talk. I think that's something that really excites you.
That drives me, yeah,
right.
for sure.
So it sounds to me, and we didn't finish the story with the building, so I want to hear.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, I was in a sea of sharks, and they set me up to just basically get me to a point where I was in there long enough. They would receive the sales that they knew that they were getting. There were points where I was driving out to Westchester and leaving sample boards, not to make any money, just to hit my quotas. I would double my quota, and then later on, I would find out that they would go in and undercut my numbers.
So they were outbidding you on your bids to your customers.
Yeah.
So bad people.
Bad people.
Got involved with bad people.
And,
so you needed to learn that lesson.
Ultimately, what was crazy about the whole thing, still to this day, I've never stepped a foot into that courtroom. There was a summary judgment against me, and they took the building away. So I was 10 years out of 12 paying a mortgage
that you didn't.
That I got zero back. I had no showroom. It was literally where we did our business every single day for the last 10 years. And I had nowhere to go at that point. It was a difficult time.
It's a reality check.
But I think those difficult times really tell you if this is what you're made for.
Right.
And that, I hunkered down at that point more than I've ever done in my life. And because of that, it has propelled us to where we are today in my opinion.
So instead of it beating you down, it lifted you up.
Yeah.
And we just said if you're going to make mistakes, you got to learn from the mistakes. Sounds like you did.
Oh, for sure.
And it sounds like you're following your instinct because you're right. Your head knows, but your gut knows.
Yeah.
Your gut knows. What motivates you, Michael, to get up every morning?
My kids.
Your kids?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. How old are your kids?
I got a 5-year-old daughter, Alessia, and a 3-year-old son named Angelo.
Nice Italian. How is entrepreneurship changed you as a person? Because you're a person. You're a dad. You're a husband. I assume you're a business owner. You're a son. All that. But being an entrepreneur is very unique, and it changes people.
Yeah, I think it changes you for the better, in my opinion, as long as you're willing to put in that work. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy.
You're alone. You're isolated.
Yeah. And I think that's part of why I enjoy the collaboration so much is because ultimately, you could go into that dungeon like you described before and feel like you're doing this on your own, or you could decide to say, you know what, let's collaborate with other entrepreneurs. And I think that this is why this podcast is going to be so successful because, when you have a lot of entrepreneurs all with the same mindset in the same room, I'm sure there's going to be functions that we do based on people who've sat in this seat. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to come here. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. So just having that awareness and that ability to go, speak to somebody else and talk to somebody else and, throw ideas at each other without judgment. I think that's where it's special because if you're not an entrepreneur, some people will just take the ideas and think they're too big or, Brennan again talking about your belief lids, right? And as an entrepreneur, my belief lid is through the roof. Like there's nothing I think I can't do, and it's not delusional. It's credible for me. When that court case happened, most people would probably just
Fold.
fold, right?
Right. They
Pack
fold.
it in.
How do you balance ambition with family? You mentioned your 2 children, health and life. How do you find that balance as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's actually one of the biggest challenges, I think. But it's all about being deliberate and planning. We do Thursday night family dinners.
Every Thursday night.
Every Thursday night, my sisters, my mom, myself, all the kids, we do a family dinner. We rotate our houses. We do that every single Thursday night. Sundays is a family day, like internal family day, where we really try not to do anything. Yesterday, my daughter's 5 years old, right? So she's getting to the point where she's starting to get to really understand what's going on.
Right.
And I go to Stretch Lab.
Wait until she gets to the point she's telling you what's going on. I have 3 daughters. Get ready. You haven't seen anything yet. Sorry, you're going to Stretch Lab.
So I go to Stretch Lab every Sunday. And yesterday my back was kind of twisted, and I said, "Hey, Alessia, you mind just like taking, my leg and pushing it this way, like what I've learned in Stretch Lab?"
Right.
And I said to her, I said, "You know what? You did such a good job that I don't want to go to Stretch Lab anymore. I want to give you the money to do this, right? Let's teach you the skill to do this. And if that's something you want to do, you'll help Dad. Dad felt so much better yesterday after you put your pressure on my chest, and
Right.
it fixed my back." And I was like, this is a really good way for me to have a bonding moment with my daughter, give her some real, like, tangible exercise of being an entrepreneur,
Right.
learning the craft. I said, "I'm not going to pay you in full unless you actually watch YouTube videos and you learn how to do stretching." And she's like, "No, just tell me what I got to do." I was like, "No, that's not how it's going to work.
You got to learn. You got to learn.
You got to learn,
I
right?"
love
So
it.
I said, let's work this out. And this Sunday, she's going to do my first stretch.
That's awesome. If it comes out good, let me know. 'Cause I could use a stretch.
Absolutely.
So we're coming to the end of time, but I have to ask you an important question. What does success mean to you today? Because I believe you're on a 20-year plus journey, that your definition of success 20 years ago is much different than your definition of success today. I could be wrong, but that's just what I feel in
No,
talking with you.
Yeah, like 20 years ago, you would have showed me the picture of what we have today. I would have said that's successful. And truth is we haven't even scratched the surface.
In either business.
In either business, we're just starting, in my opinion, because the clarity that I have, the direction that the businesses are going, when this software and this entire TradeScale Ventures, which we didn't really talk about, is the entire ecosystem, right? So it's from your entering into the CRM, knowing exactly where that customer came from, all the way through the entire production line gets tracked in our system with the estimating, and that goes nationwide. And from that, the next level would be to actually start importing and distributing products based upon the things that are inside of the system.
I love it.
That, to me, is when success is.
So you have a multi-level tier goal.
Yeah.
Selective Remodeling will
Is a case study,
Was a
right?
case study, but as a company, will continue to change the way consumers view interaction with a contractor and expectations.
Absolutely.
CE Pro will change not only what I just spoke about, if for the clients, when I say clients, the contractors that are using it, but it'll also change the way they go to market and understanding their business from the inside out.
Yeah.
Then you talked about the marketing arm of that.
Yep.
So explain that, because you went over it quick.
Yeah.
Explain how they're attached.
So one of the things that once I built out the CE Pro software, I could have went to market with it, and I decided that it just was too linear, right? There was just one tool, and I didn't want to be one of many tools. And that was kind of my thought process. Is like, if we're going to instill a piece of software, it needs to do more than just one thing. Because that was one of the struggles that I had. Like, I have project management software that's really good at that thing, but it doesn't speak to my estimating, and the estimating doesn't speak to the CRM. And I was like, it's just all these
It was
different
all
things.
over the place.
And that's how most businesses are. There's probably 5-6 tech stacks that they're using
Sure.
inside their business, and neither one of them are connected. Now with AI, there's probably going to be advancements with that where you can create agents that can speak to each other and do that. But at that time, there wasn't that idea, right? Or that wasn't out there. And when I realized that, I said, where does this start? It starts with you knowing where your customer comes from, right? It's called attribution. So
Right.
if you know the lead source and you know the sub-source and you know what we call the lead narrative, right? So for instance, it's repeat referrals, right? Then it's strategic partners, and then it could be,
SEO,
XYZ,
ads or something, right.
strategic partner, right?
Got
There's
it,
three levels to lead sources. And if you can really hone that in, and you know which lead sources are actually giving you the best return on investment,
You know where to put your money.
you can know where to put your money in.
So as an entrepreneur, it's really interesting. You've worked hard to build a brand that the consumer's aware of, and the consumer will have a great experience. Then from what you've learned in that experience, you've collaborated and built solutions to help other entrepreneurs down the path that you're going down today. It's amazing.
Yeah, and the collaboration, not to cut you off, but that collaboration comes from the marketing agency, right? So I'm not a marketing agency. This is not where my
Strength is
10,000 hours have gone into, but I have enough experience to know this is what I needed. And when I saw that in my partner now, I said, hey, we need to collaborate. And it's another instance of collaboration is a new currency, because I wouldn't have been able to create this suite on my own.
And that's key. I think that as a business owner, you're not Superman. You got to know what you can do, what you're good at, and what you're not. And if it's not one of your strengths, you need to bring people in that have those skill sets. So I think that's amazing that you had the ability to recognize that. Some people don't.
Yeah.
I can do it all.
It's all about the who. Who.
I love it. So as a seasoned 20+ year entrepreneur in multiple businesses, as I told you when we started this podcast, is about people that are listening, learning, and getting off their butt and saying, give it a try, give it a shot. If you believe in yourself and go out and do it. If someone's listening and has a dream but is afraid to take the leap, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to slow down, come up with a plan, and then execute that plan. Because if the plan is not written down and it's not clear,
it's not real.
It's going to be confusing to everybody you're speaking to. And if you know where your target is, and you have clear direction, and you can communicate that target to anyone you're speaking to, you want to be able to have an elevator pitch. You want to be able to speak to somebody and clearly show why you belong in the market and how you differentiate from your competition.
What problem you're solving.
So
is it fair? I'm going to take a stab at this. If somebody is listening and they're in the trades or thinking about getting into the trades, could they call you?
Absolutely. They should call me. I think, just like a homeowner who's about to do a major renovation, I like to be the first conversation that they have, because they could end up calling an architect first, getting plans drawn out that are way beyond their means.
Right.
And if you
as a homeowner,
right? A homeowner comes and they think that their first call is actually an architect. It really shouldn't be.
Right.
You should be speaking to a contractor who can help truly guide you. Then your next step most likely is going to be, how do I afford this? Speak to a finance.
Right.
And then once that's set, then you speak to an architect. Then you bring the contractor back.
I love it.
Right? There's a sequence.
And I think in this case, there's a sequence too, right?
Right. You speak to somebody who's actually built something, who's done something, right?
And the fact that you mentioned Brandon Dawson earlier, 10X earlier, probably opens up a whole nother opportunity for somebody if they were to reach out to you. Because if they have a plan that makes sense and you can sense that fire in the belly, from just talking to you, I believe that you would extend that olive branch and say, let me bring you into an ecosystem that'll really help you achieve those goals.
Immediately. It would be, my first instinct would be to bring them to somebody that can help solve their problem. If it wasn't me, my goal would be to bring them to somebody who can. And I know from my own personal experience what Cardone Ventures has done for Selective Remodeling and the things that they put in place. It's not for everyone. You have to really know what you want and go after it, and they'll put, like the saying is, they'll bring you to the water, but you have to go drink it.
100%.
Right? They're not here doing the work for you. You have to put the pieces in place.
I get it.
And you got to go do that. So
yeah, you have to do the heavy lifting.
You have to be an entrepreneur. You can't expect someone else to go run your business.
Right.
No one's going to come in your business and save your business. It's you that does that.
And no one's saving you.
No one's saving me, right? And I'm saving myself.
Right.
And part of saving myself is going to find the people that could help me through this journey to get to the $100 million revenue mark, right? And I've never gone to $100 million. So my first instinct and my first thought process would be, who has and how can I learn from that person? If the next target is 25 million, who's done that? If the one is 10, who's done that?
Because each one of those plateaus adds a whole different level of chaos, I'm going to call it, right? And skill sets.
Yeah.
So I ask everybody this question. This is going to be the last question I'm going to ask you before we wrap up when they turn the lights off on us again. Give me a book that you'd recommend anybody who's either in business today, thinking about getting into business, that would change or help them. I don't want to change anything. Help them propel.
So Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone is what got me on this track. It talks about how much action is required to get to your goals.
Repeat the name of the book.
Be Obsessed or Be Average.
How did you discover that read?
By accident. I just happened to see something on Instagram that was a Cardone Ventures ad, and I picked up that book by accident. No real reason. And he talks about massive action. That's what it takes.
Got it.
So once you think you need to do this one thing to solve your goal, his whole idea is you 10x that thing. You do 10 times more effort. And when you do that consistently, time and time again, day in, day out, you'll hit your goals and you'll hit your targets. You won't miss your targets if you do 10 times the action required to hit that target.
I love that.
When you do that with everything, like your health and your wealth and your family and all those other things, it starts somewhere, and then ultimately you should be bringing that throughout all the other parts of your life.
And we've learned in business that all those cylinders need to be firing. Your personal, professional, financial, everything has to be a target. And listen, man, I could talk to you all day. You're really a true entrepreneur. And again, the word is collaboration, which I think is amazing. And what you're doing sounds unbelievable, changing the industry, for the better, not only for the consumer, but for the tradesman. I wish you lots of luck, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the Entrepreneur Seat, and we look forward to having you back.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you, Randy.
You got it, my man.
Absolutely.